8:01 on a beautiful Saturday morning. You see that? That's Port Canaveral. We'll look at that in a minute. That's the Canaveral Princess. I feel like on Saturday mornings, we always get to enjoy the Canaveral Princess going on out. It's a beautiful morning. All right, let's look at it. There it goes. Canaveral Princess off to sea. Off to sea. Somebody's gonna have to look and see what the Canaveral Princess does. All right. Forecast for today is going to be hot. Big weather story is going to be the impact weather. We've been talking about this for a couple of days. It's absolutely here, my friends. Dangerous stretch of heat with feels like temperatures running 105 to 112 degrees these next few days' time. So let's take a look because it is even near record heat. We're using Orlando's temperatures on this map, but you get the idea. It's not just Orlando. All right, I'm going to take a sip. Hold on. All right, so 96 today. Record is 98 set back in 1936. Tomorrow, 97. Hopefully, we don't get to that record. Monday, 98. Tuesday will be awful close to a record 99 set back in 1949. So this is going to be the hottest stretch of temperatures that we have seen in Central Florida all year long. Okay. That makes sense. Now, to put it into even more perspective, because I got into a little nerddom this morning, forecast for this heat stretch, highest is 98. That's on Monday. We hit 98 four times last year, but on average, we hit 98 degrees for the last at least 15 or so years, about once a year, sometimes more, sometimes less. And then the further back you go, it happened less and less and less and less. So last year was a particularly hot year. Really hope we don't hit 98 four times this year, but I digress. And I just put it on there for funsies. The highest temperature that we have ever recorded at Orlando International Airport is 103. Really hope we don't get there these next few days. I don't expect that to happen, but I digress. So, where are we in terms of forecast temperatures? Let's look at today, and I'm going to take you around Central Florida. Uh, let's do this one. All right. Through the metro area today, 96 in Orlando, 97 over near Walt Disney World, 95 degrees in Winter Garden, 96 in Claremont, in Christmas and Wedgefield, 96 Winter Springs, Sanford. Notice you get over to the coastline, 92 degrees or so for Daytona Beach, 92 for Edgewater. Out west, 94 Reddick, Citra, 95 the Villages, Lady Lake, Ocala, 96 degrees in Astatoula and Claremont, and then over to the coastline, 89, 90 from Cape Canaveral to Satellite Beach, but we get to about the mid 90s for Rockledge and Vieira. So it's going to be a hot day, right? This weekend, there are 13 temperature records in jeopardy for Central Florida and beyond to the state. So, you 13 records, that's not nothing. So there's definitely heat to track. There's the heat advisories in effect that goes in at 11 o'clock and goes through 7 p.m. today. All right. So, what are you going to do? Maybe you head out to a water park. Volcano Bay looks like a good one. 9 a.m. it opens up. So, about 55 minutes until opening. And with those feels like temperatures in the triple digits, it's definitely a good idea. It's also a great weekend to get into the backyard swimming pool because it's hot. And the rain coverage, the storm coverage is relatively low. So we don't have that to deal with. So at least there's that. One other point of note, okay? And I know that we had talked about this on Coffee Talk yesterday. Somebody had asked, when is the average at its peak? So I went and I looked for you. All right. We are sitting at a current average high temperature of 92.2 degrees, which makes it the hottest average all year. We are at 92.2 for an average high temperature through August 1st. Then August 2nd, the average high temperature drops to 92.1. So this is the hottest stretch. I should have made it the dog days of summer background. Hold on. We got to put the pup in there. Stand by. I'll fix this. This one you can be a little cute with. Stand by. Where's that dog? Dog days of summer. There we go. Got to put the sweaty dog. I know dogs don't sweat. You know what I mean. All right. That feels better. That feels better. I don't know why this graphic in particular, I always just like using the dog face. I don't know. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at, my friends. Now that that's updated, I can move on and I feel better. All right, so 7-day forecast showing that big heat today, that big heat tomorrow, Monday, even Tuesday, dangerous heat in place. Then at least Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we start to ramp up that storm coverage just a little bit. That's going to help us out. Yeah. All right. Ah, Michelle says, I saw you talk about that on Wesh. Oh, yeah. Well, and that came from Coffee Talk. I always say Coffee Talk helps me just as much as it helps anybody else, right? So there's that. Taylor, that point one, that 1/10 of a degree makes such a huge difference. I know, right? It does. It does. Mr. Matt, good morning. Debbie Taylor, good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? Um, that pup is so cute. So, Victoria, here's the funny thing. That pup is real. As I've been building some new graphics, I have noticed that all of the stock photography is starting to err a little more into AI-based photography, which is interesting. I know people like Matt are not going to love that, but interesting stuff. All right, so people are asking now about the feels like temperature for today. So, yeah, great question. And first off, let's just explain. I always bring this up this time of year. The heat index is an actual math equation. All right. Because some people say, well, the heat index is not a real thing. You know what grinds my gears? Yeah, the heat index is not a real thing. Actually, it is. That's the math equation. And thank goodness I live in a day and age when I don't have to equate that. We have computers. We have the technology. We have the know how. So, asking about the feels like temperature, the heat index for today. Let me dial that up for you. All right. So, notice this morning, I mean, it feels warm, sure. By 3 o'clock this afternoon, feels like about 105 in Orlando, about that same in Claremont. 106 in DeLand, 103 in Melbourne. Let's look at Sunday. 106 in Orlando, 108 in Claremont, 110 in Wildwood. Let's look at Monday. 112 in Wildwood, 107 in New Smyrna Beach, 106 in Daytona Beach. Let's look at the feels like temperatures on Tuesday. You get the drift, right? This is why it's dangerous heat, okay? Then there's another idea to this, okay? And this is kind of getting into the weeds, but welcome to Coffee Talk. Let's talk about the urban heat island, okay? This is kind of fancy. All right, so let's just say that we're heating temperatures up. All things considered, you have to understand that as a downtown metropolitan area, with all the concrete of the buildings starts to heat up, the heat emitted from cars and buildings, not necessarily factories here, but from buildings and cars, as that gets into the concrete in the building, that starts to radiate it out. So that's why for us, downtown areas are going to be hotter. What's interesting though is that our thermometer isn't in downtown, right? The Orlando International Airport is miles away. So we don't get necessarily that urban heat island effect there, but actual downtown Orlando will be hotter than like where the temperature is. So for that, it's always good to use like Orlando Executive Airport. It's much closer to downtown. But yeah, believe it or not, buildings radiate out heat. And I think that that's one of those fascinating things. I really do think that it's fascinating, right? So that's kind of where we're at. All right. So I'll pop up the 7-day forecast again, and then we'll look at the coastal forecast. Okay. So for us, next couple of days, dangerous heat, storm chances rise Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. For our coastal friends, we've got you covered with your 7-day forecast. Notice mid 90s for our Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Really, those are going to be the hotter days. And then into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, storm chances start to rise for our coastal friends. Okay. All right. Sound good? Jeannie Rowan says, you do the math. I'll believe you and appreciate it. Tad says, well, to be fair, an equation doesn't really prove it real. Flat earthers have equations to explain the moon's movement that are less obtuse than that one. That's true. An equation. Look, I can make an equation. All I mean is that it's a real calculated thing. I feel like some people just think that we pull numbers out of our tuchus, which is not the case. So there's that. Yeah. Let's see here. Chris, good morning to you. Good. Well, as long as that's a good thing, Mr. Chris. Like to hear from you. Hope all is good. Amy says, I always learn something new here. I love that. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Brian, there is a tendency to take temperatures at airports. Do you know the logic for this? Space available. Well, the FAA needs these readings. So, like when I fly, I'll show you. When I fly, stand by. I'll find this. When you fly an airplane, okay, you have to get what's called the ATIS, or AWAS, whatever the case may be. So, like my home airport is Sanford. Okay. So let's just, when you're flying, this is what you dial into. This is what you hear. Local time to 2300 local time. You're flying and you listen to this on the radio. Contact Orlando approach on 121.25. Additional information, contact Orlando approach on 124.2. So you're flying, you got to know what the winds are, all that. National Airport. Observation. 1 Zulu. 0 at 04. Ability 10. High condition clear. Temperature 27 Celsius. 0.24 Celsius. Altimeter 3014. You're writing it down. So anyway, the reason that we use airports is because they're there for pilots. Okay. So to that point, those are official maintained stations. They've been there, and that's why we use that data. Okay. So just for perspective purposes, that's why we use airports. All right. Cannot understand. Oh, you can't hear it? Apologies. All that for nothing. Oh, well. All right. So that's kind of where we're at. All right. Any questions, comments, concerns about things thus far? Any questions, comments, concerns? We've got this big old honking ridge of high pressure over top of us. Keeps us nice and dry. Then as it starts to move out into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we eventually will open up opportunities for more showers and thunder showers around Central Florida. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in particular, we'll get those opportunities for rainfall. All right. Questions, comments, concerns about that before we go and do the tropics? Robin says you always have some fascinating facts for us. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To make it hard to hear on purpose. I know, Matt, right? Like you're flying, you're like, wait, was that wind 210 or was that 270? Couldn't tell. Right? When is the next launch? There was one this morning. There was one this morning. Oh, well. All right. Yeah, it's definitely a little hazy. Saharan dust has kind of moved into town. Here's the current air quality index around Central Florida, sitting at a moderate concern. So if you're asthmatic, if you're particularly sensitive, there's a moderate air quality concern. It's not bad, it's not unhealthy, but for Central Florida standards, this is a little lower than is typical. So yeah, keep that in mind. All right. All right. For our friends that are heading to the beach today, if I can find the button. There we are. Here's the beach boating forecast for today. Looking gorgeous. Seas offshore for the boaters running 2 to 3. Surf breaking 1 to 2. Water temperatures in the lower 80s. It looks great. It feels great. That looks pretty good to me. Just have to get outside and enjoy that, for goodness sake. Debbie says there's a launch this afternoon. I haven't looked. There's a scheduled mission launch on Thursday. I know there's a crewed launch coming up. I have to check. Yeah. Chris, does the air quality go up with altitude? Typically, you've got like a little inversion layer that traps particulates at the surface. So, yeah, it does typically get better and better up top for sure. Yep. All right, let's talk about the tropics, my friends. Currently, a wide shot of the Atlantic basin is nice and quiet. Little area of moisture out near the Caribbean islands, the Lesser Antilles. But honest, there's nothing expected to develop the next 7 days' time, which you gotta love that, right? No tropical development expected. But then you go beyond that and just start looking at some of the data. Now, the European Ensemble is mentioning, look on the right side of your screen there, mentioning an area that may try to yield a little something out this direction, right? So let's do this. Let's pop up some of the model data and let's get an idea of what we're looking at here, okay? All right, let's start things off. I'll go to the full basin view. I guess we're at that time of year now. Uh, 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 What's interesting is this is going to be Wednesday of next week. I want you to notice in the Gulf, it's showing a sloppy area of low pressure, not necessarily tropical in nature, but a sloppy area of low pressure riding right along the Gulf Coast. And with that, what we end up with is an opportunity for more rainfall for you and I. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but there's an opportunity for rainfall there. All right, I'll back it up and we'll go back to the basin view. And right in here, you can kind of see not the great, I always click the wrong one. It's the Lesser Antilles. Right in here, the GFS isn't showing an area of low pressure, really, just kind of a little piece of energy. That's August the 3rd, crossing around the Lesser Antilles, getting over to the Greater Antilles. Not really doing much. So the GFS for now, not really doing much there, which is fine. European model, let's look over there. We'll go back to the basin view. Trying to develop a little something in the central Atlantic there. Look around the Caribbean islands here. We'll go back to the Lesser Antilles, right? A something out near Puerto Rico. Crossing out past like the Bahamas, the Turks and the Caicos. Like around the Bahamas on August 6th. And then watch how afterward it kind of maybe tries to develop it and then loop it away from us, while at the same time keeping a broad area of low pressure over us. All right. So at the moment, I'm showing this just to say that there's no tropical development that is expected over the next 7 days' time. But looking into August, we're starting to see hints here at some potential tropical development. Let's go over and look at some ensembling. GFS ensembles. We'll go back. We'll go to multi-member. We'll go to basin. Right? We're starting to see around the Lesser Antilles here. There's some ensemble support for something around, right? Around August 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Nothing significant. That's the GFS ensemble. Let's look at the European ensemble. You can see it getting into the Caribbean here, and then like east of us around the 6th. So ensembling is showing up. And again, that is this on the bottom right corner of your screen. So something to watch. Thankfully, nothing too significant. That's all that matters to me. So tropics, maybe remember, we know that Saharan dust starts shutting off during the month of August. So it makes sense that something may try to develop or things may start trying to develop. That all makes sense. Yeah. Yep. All right. So that's kind of where we're at. Questions, comments, concerns? How we doing? Ah, sounds good to me. Melissa says, I like all that blue. Yeah, me too. Me too. Yep. All right. Questions, comments, concerns? All right. Listen, I've got a bunch of graphics to work on, so I may let you go. All right. All right. Listen, be the sunshine in someone else's day. Thank you for hanging out for Coffee Talk. I will see you guys tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, Coffee Talk. Sound good? All right. Take care. Bye.